Welcome to Mediocre Gaming, and today we're talking about The Division 2. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and salutations. Today, game updates and the private beta. Let's get to it. So first things first, and most importantly, if you pre-ordered the game, there were multiple levels, but essentially three main levels where you had the Standard Edition, the Gold Edition, the Ultimate Edition. Standard Edition, you get the game plus all the DLC. Gold Edition, you get the same thing, plus you get early access to the game and DLC. And the Ultimate Edition came with what was called the Elite Agent Pack. And that Elite Agent Pack came with extra stash space. And when the pre-orders went up, they didn't go into detail about stash space, how much extra stash space we're talking about, etc. Well, they finally came out and said what that actually means. So when you start the game, if you got the Standard or Gold Edition, you're going to start off with 50 spaces in your stash. By the time you get to the end of the campaign, you'll be up to 100 stash spaces. And then during that end game, you'll be able to upgrade it even further to 150 spaces. So you'll eventually get to 150, but you start off with 50. If you get the Ultimate Edition, you will start off with an extra 50 spaces, but you will only be able to get up to 150. So you have early access to that extra stash space. So you start off with the Ultimate Edition, you start off with 100 spaces, and then by the end of the campaign, you have 150. So you get the maximum space earlier than anyone else. So it's good that they cleared that up and gave that transparency. So what else? Most importantly, private beta. If you pre-ordered the game or if you signed up for the beta and they chose you. So everyone that signed up for the beta, and they're going to take a pool of people that signed up. So not everyone is going to get in. But if you pre-ordered, you're guaranteed a spot in the private beta. Now, if you did pre-order, you will also get 3 friend codes so that you can have your friends come in with you and you can play with a full team. Now, the private beta starts February 7th at 10 a.m. CET. Now, that is 4 a.m. Eastern Time. And it goes until February 11th, 10 a.m. CET. Again, that is 4 a.m. Eastern Time. So for all intents and purposes, it runs from Thursday until Sunday. Yeah, and you do have a couple extra hours really early Monday morning to get it through if you're on the Eastern Time. If you're on Pacific, you're basically done Sunday. Alright, now with the pre-order and the beta out of the way, let's get into the game itself. We found out that the game will have crafting in it and recalibration. The crafting will require a larger pool of crafting materials. There's going to be a larger pool of crafting materials out there, so scavenging is going to be more important. So you're going to be out there in free roam, and you're not going to just bypass areas that have resources. And you're not going to say, oh, I already have a bunch of tools, I don't really need any more. You're going to say, I need to get whatever I can. Eventually, perhaps you will have a lot and you'll have a large pool of crafting materials, but we don't really know how long that'll take and how relevant those will stay throughout the life of the game. So scavenging will be important. You'll have to go out, and instead of just going out for that D-Tech and looking in the Dark Zone for D-Tech, you're going to be looking throughout the map for different crafting materials. And speaking of going out into the map, free roam bosses are making a return. Now, free roam bosses are going to be more difficult to find than in the previous game. There were multiple free roam bosses, and you could always look at one particular area within one block and find them. Not going to be the case. They didn't really go into detail, but there's going to be free roam bosses, and they're going to be a little bit more difficult to find. Also, on the free roam map, even after you take over an area and you liberate it, a faction or different factions can come in and take over these areas, and then you'll have to come back and take it over again. So the free roam map is always going to be evolving and always changing, so that there's always a relevant activity to do on the map at any given time. Whether this is based on time, whether it is based on how active you are, and whether it is a cloud or global type event, or if it is only relevant to you. We don't know at this time. We'll find out later on. Missions. There are 2 missions in the private beta, and then an endgame mission, some sort of invasion mission, which will be unlocked a day after the beta starts. Now, missions in the Division 2 are going to work a little differently than Division 1. How are they different? Even the first time that you clear a mission will always be the same. So the first clear, if you do it on your character, if you go in and help one of your friends do it and clear it the first time, it'll always be the same. But after you clear it that first time, they add a randomness to the mission. And what I mean by that is that different factions could be in that mission, as well as the spawn points will change. So where enemies spawn will be different every time you play. So maybe it'll be off to the left that they'll spawn, and then the next time they're off to the right, and then another time they're going to spawn behind you. So you'll never know exactly where to lob that grenade to take out a whole bunch of guys as soon as they spawn in. This is actually a good thing, because this actually makes it a little bit more of a realism where you don't know where they're going to be coming from, but you know they are going to be coming. You know they're going to be reinforcing that point. Now, speaking of missions, what about your friends that got the standard edition because you had gotten the gold edition or above? What about them? Because you're going to be a little bit ahead of them in terms of gameplay, in terms of progression. How does that work in? Now, previously, if you had a friend that came in 6 months down the road, you're already max level, you would go in and take them in to the hardest difficulty mission that you could, and they would get one-shotted. You'd bring them up, they'd go into cover, but one stray bullet and they were down. Because going from a level 1 into a level 35 mission, very brutal. Now they've changed that. How have they changed it? So if you are max level and you're playing with your friend who hasn't been playing and he just started playing, you can bring him into these high tier missions. But what is going to happen is that level 1 character is going to be buffed to a level 30 character. So they're going to be able to play and contribute during the mission and not just kind of hide out and wait for you to finish. So they're going to be buffed out. They're going to get the XP. The loot that they get isn't going to be level 30. It's going to pertain to their level. So they're going to get level 1, level 2 gear, maybe level 3. And the person that's level 30, they're going to get level 30 gear and they're going to get experience. So it's going to be beneficial for everyone. So whether you're level 1, level 15, level 30, whatever, you're going to be able to help other people out. And those people are going to be able to contribute in a meaningful way during the mission. Speaking of meaningful loot, all loot that has to be extracted from the Dark Zone, you won't know actually what it is until it gets extracted, so it will always be pertinent to you. So whether you pick it up from a boss, whether you pick it up from someone else that got taken out, or whether you take someone out or cut the rope and pick up their stuff and extract it yourself, it will always be pertinent to you. And that was one of the recurring themes that the developers have been saying, is that all of the loot that you get will be important in one way or another. Even if it doesn't have good rolls on it, you can salvage it and strip off crafting parts that will be important in recalibrating another piece or in crafting a new piece. Speaking of pieces, they have said that there are going to be weapon mods. The weapon mods are going to be different than in Division 1. You're going to do specific activities or challenges in order to unlock them, and then they will be unlocked for all of the weapons that they are available for. Similar to Division 1, Division 2 will likely have large and small spec'd items. So you might have a large scope or a small scope, and a particular gun might be able to use either one, or they may only be able to use one or the other. But these mods are not going to work like the old mods in Division 1. They're not going to take up a bunch of stash space. They're always going to be available. You're going to have a separate screen just to access them. When you're modding weapons, you'll be able to use any number of any unlocked mod that you have. So even if you have 50 weapons, you can use the same clip on every single one, as long as that clip is unlocked. However, having it unlocked means that all the stats are static. There are no random rolls on weapon mods. They are all the same, and they have advantages and disadvantages to them. So they may increase crit chance, but they decrease weapon damage, or they increase crit damage, but they decrease stability. So overall, what you add to it by adding a weapon mod will be more of a positive than not having one, but know that you will have a negative effect based on what mod that you put into what slot. And finally, while you're playing either the private beta or the full game when it gets released March 15th, that you use cover. Use cover as much as possible, and you get out of cover and switch cover to get a better position, or you get out of cover to try to flank the enemy. Staying out of cover for extended periods of time, trying to face tank, is a mistake in Division 2. Unlike Division 1, Division 2, you have armor, and then you have your health. The armor has always been, I have never seen it less than the health. Your armor is your first line of defense, and it is usually double or triple or even quadruple what your health is. So I've seen health being like 25,000 and armor being 40 or 50,000, and I've seen armor being 90,000 and health being 30,000. So anywhere from 2/3 to 3/4 of your total hit points is armor. So once your armor is gone, your health is going to disappear really quick. So make sure you stay in cover. Replacing that armor plate does take time, and it can be interrupted. So you have to get into cover, replace that armor plate, which takes 3 or 4 seconds, and then get back into the fight. But that is also 3 or 4 seconds that the enemy has, whether it is AI or another rogue agent coming after you. They know, they've seen how much hit points or how much armor you have, and they're going to make a rush for you. So while you're trying to get your armor plate replaced, they're going to be advancing, and you can use this to your advantage, whether you're pressing the advantage or trying to take some defensive positions. So if you're trying to get that armor plate, if you have, a turret or teammates that can help you out, that are positioned correctly, where the enemy, when they're advancing to take you out, they can hit them in the open, that'd be great. If you're pressing your advantage, you can have maybe a teammate on the sides so they can be looking for any enemies that are going to flank you while you're pressing the advantage. But that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to ring the bell before you leave to be notified of all future episodes. And thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And we'll see you next time.